But in all seriousness, I mean, O.J. Simpson did it. I mean, like, you must be mental if you think he didn't do it, you know. There's not even a theory about a one-armed man in the O.J. Simpson case. He didn't even have that. It was a big show trial. It just became about race when it was nothing to do with race. It was a guy that murdered his wife. When O.J. was declared innocent, justice had been done. For one side of the argument. The side that believed that, you know, the LAPD was fundamentally racist and needed to be changed, and they needed to send a statement out. You know, this guy who clearly is a horrendous murderer, well, we're going to have him proven innocent to show you that we mean bloody business.
Knowledge and ignorance.
Welcome, Knowledge and Ignorance. Podcast episode 31. Today's episode is sponsored by the finest counterfeit sportswear made in Vietnam. Okay, fantastic. It's better than the real thing. I wouldn't even buy the real thing if I were you. What a waste of money. Anyway, remember the mantra that's been going around, no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but about a week ago, justice was served. Well, not really. No, justice wasn't served at all. In fact, the myth of justice was served. Because people prefer myths to reality. Reality's boring, man. Reality's, not fun. It's full of facts and data and evidence and all this kind of things. There's no emotion. There's no emotion in fantasy. There's emotion in fantasy. There's no emotion in reality. The reality of facts and data. People don't really like that. This is why real conspiracies are pretty mundane. Real conspiracies are pretty mundane. Whereas, fantasies about lizards and subterranean mutants and secret chambers of adrenochrome factories underneath pizza parlors. This stuff is fun. So people prefer to believe that kind of thing. So what am I talking about, the fantasy? When the conviction of Derek Chauvin very much reminds me of O.J. Simpson. This is very similar to O.J. Simpson, and also evidence of how far we've come, which is not far at all. We haven't come. We've just gone round in circles. We're sort of going like this. We haven't made any progress whatsoever. Oh, but why? Justice has been served. If justice was served, it would be the police department that would be on trial here, because it's their practices that were carried out by this police officer. He's the one that followed the training manual. There was no denying that what he did was procedure. You can look it up. And yet the show trial went on and he got convicted and is now one of the most hated people on planet Earth. Well, I don't hate the guy. There's plenty of you out there who are going to be like, the police. I don't like police. But I don't like it when a whole world gangs up on one person because of mob justice. In fact, I despise that. When it comes to bullies, tyrants, oppressors, these kind of things, I cannot tolerate it. In fact, it's the only thing that makes me lose my cool. I hate it. And what happened to him is despicable, to be honest, because this is a show trial. This has got nothing to do with justice. This is just the usual, I call it a tug of war. It's a political tug of war. Black people are the rope. That's what it is. Not just black people, Muslims are, gay people are, the working class, the middle classes. There's many ropes in this tug of war, but it's always a tug of war between left and right, and this is why I don't subscribe to either of them. This is why, you can tell in Vietnam, people are beeping like idiots. So, but it's always been a tug of war, and it's always for show. The security services, the police, they don't really care about, how can I explain this? when they do stuff, it's very reactionary. So, if I'll give you an example. If there's like a far-right group, let's say like Britain First and the way that they clamp down on Britain First. If you're unfamiliar with Britain First, they're just an anti-Muslim weirdo mob who carry crucifixes around Luton, shouting about the Bible in Muslims' faces. They're a bunch of weirdos. But they clamp down on Britain First not because they don't like hate speech. I don't think that is true at all. I think they probably share some of the same sentiments as them, given the fact that the police, the security services, the media, and the government have all been persecuting Muslims because of 9/11, because of some sort of quest for justice or some sort of quest to make the world a safer place from evil. So fuck them, and I don't believe any word they say about it. What it really is they don't want, and I know if you watch this regularly, I talk about this kind of thing over and over and over, but you do kind of have to talk about things over and over and over, because no one really gets the message. The message is they just want peace. They just don't want trouble. They just want the system to keep ticking along. They just want everyone subdued. They don't want revolutions. They don't want, they let people march in the street because they know it's not going to do anything. But if you have a group walking around Luton with a cross, and this incites a guy to go commit a suicide bombing, then there is a problem. When you have an angry mob that has set fire to cities across a country because someone told them, well, it's not someone, everyone told them that this was a racially related incident, that it was actually a racist murder upon poor St. George Floyd. That's right, I can go deep, but I also will keep injecting jokes as we go, so prepare yourself for that. When that's happening, what do they want to do? I mean, even one of the jurors said, I just don't want my house getting burnt down or something like that. It's like, well, yeah, this is how they act. They want to keep the peace. And if that means throwing some guy under the bus for doing his job, so be it. That's how it works. O.J. Simpson is even, the man wrote a book called If I Did Do It, This Is How I Would Do It. Because he did do it. Come on. O.J. Simpson was a big fan of murdering white women. How tasty is that? I told you I'm going to keep with the jokes. But in all seriousness, O.J. Simpson did it. You must be mental if you think he didn't do it. There's not even a theory about a one-armed man in the O.J. Simpson case. He didn't even have that. He was like, well, I don't know. Looks like it was me, but it wasn't. The O.J. Simpson trial was just about race relations. You had the LAPD. The LAPD laid the smackdown on poor old Rodney King. Beat the living crap out of him. And that was that was a rarity to catch that, because not everyone walks around with a smartphone back in 1991, 92, whenever it was. This would have been a camcorder this fucking big. That guy made a lot of effort to film that smackdown. They beat the living crap out of him. They were let go. The city was set ablaze. That's right. What's riots? South Central riots. There was a lot of rioting back then. The riots. They rioted. Big mistake. So when the OJ thing came around, it was a big show trial. It just became about race when it was nothing to do with race. It was a guy that murdered his wife, okay? But they made it about race. And that's what the battleground was. And then when OJ was given the verdict, when OJ was declared innocent by a jury of his peers, justice had been done. For one side of the argument. The side that believes that, the LAPD was fundamentally racist and needed to be changed, and they needed to send a statement out. And a statement was sent out and said, this guy who clearly is a horrendous murderer, well, we're going to have him proven innocent to show you that we mean bloody business. And this is even before the Rampart scandal. Look up the Rampart scandal, the LAPD. What a tasty place to work that was. So this is the same thing Justice was not really done for the family of the two victims in the O.J. Simpson trial. Justice was not done in this incident. If justice was done, the police force would be on trial, but they were not. The practices would be on trial, but it was not. And that's why not even at any point was evidence laid before you that this was racially motivated. There's no evidence to support anything to do with race. And yet it's a victory for race relations, a victory against the corrupt, systemic, racist police. No matter what you believe, there is no evidence to back up this particular case. No, none of it. It's just a white guy kneeling on a black man. If there was real justice, then a man named Tony Timber would have got justice. Tony Timber's dead too. Tony Timber had problems just like George Floyd. Okay, George Floyd clearly had a tragic situation. He was addicted to fentanyl, amongst other things. Now we'll go into the whole fentanyl thing, because that's also a part of it. But Tony Timber, he had mental health problems. Tony Timber was apprehended by police, and they did the same procedure upon him. He said he couldn't breathe, and he died. Now, you'll have to go watch the video of Tony Timber, and you can go watch it. It's on YouTube, in fact. If you can't find it on YouTube, you look it up on... this happened in Texas, in Dallas, I believe. And there is a news outlet that has the full video there released by the police. But they break it down. This is all body cam footage. If you play those two videos side by side, you will see it's a very different story. Derek Chauvin is just a man kneeling on a guy. Tony Timber has 4 people around him, mocking him, laughing at him, until his last fucking breath. They're still making jokes when they don't even check his pulse. The guy's dead. They wheel him into the back of an ambulance, and a horrified paramedic is just looking. Look at the look on the paramedic's face when he's staring at these police. He's like, these guys are joking around, being mad disrespectful. Tony Timber died. Watch that video, and you tell me that ain't some fucked up shit. Don't worry, the police did go to court, all 4 of them. They're all acquitted. Didn't even get manslaughter. Nothing. This only happened a couple of years ago. Tony Timber was white. And then it becomes a problem. Oh, he's white. You see how this works? And then it's playing right into the hands of the race grifters. You'll have the far right recruiting people because of what happens, because of incidents like this. This is how it works. There was no justice. The only reason something was done for Derek Chauvin is because there was a demand for it from the mob. Okay? Because the media have been irresponsible for years when it comes to race relations, because it boosts their ratings. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, if you wanted to go real conspiratorial, you could look at it and go, well, if you were going to divide a nation, well, this is kind of the way you go about it. I mean, it's kind of weird how all these videos get passed around. I mean, is it the Chinese? Well, they'd say it was the Russians, wouldn't they? But it wouldn't be. It'd be the Chinese. Let's be real. So there you have it. Justice was not served at all. No justice was served for Tony Timber. No one's looked into the fact that George Floyd, is addicted to fentanyl as well. There's an opioid crisis going on in America. And you have to look at the toxicology reports, I suppose, but I'd say it definitely had a lot to do with his death, the circumstances leading up to his death, the fact that he was passing out phony money. It would all relate back to his addiction to fentanyl. There's an opioid crisis. There's poison in people's blood. And that's not being dealt with either. They don't care about that. That's just been ignored. No justice has been served. If you think justice has been served, then you's a fool, because it's only surface level justice. They'll just throw you little crumbs like they do everything. Here you go, here's a little bit of justice for you. Do you like it? But the thing is, the mob is so fueled up with rage that they've already moved on. So they don't care. And already now we're seeing a position being taken where the biggest lunatics are now fully revealing themselves. We are at a point of no return. This is hence why I'm calling this, the theme of this is Bye-bye America, because it is bye-bye time. I'm sorry. It's kind of over. Now, you got the incident with the young girl, 16 years old, swinging a knife to try and stab some girl. The amount of nonsense that's come from this is astonishing. Now the police shouldn't even stop people from stabbing people, apparently. Is there not another way they could have done it? And everyone's got an opinion on what the policeman could have done, but yet none of them are trained to be policemen. You know, I don't go around telling firemen what to do, okay? Stop telling police what to do. I don't like police. But I do know for a fact that some of them know what they're doing. It's the reasons of why they're doing it I have a problem with. But I think they know what they're doing. And yet, now we find ourselves in a situation where it's like, what? You know, black people love having knife fights. It's part of their culture. Leave them alone. Leave kids to stab each other. I remember all the campaigns, all the mothers. You know, remember all the mothers who, like, march through, you know, they'd be in London and areas where there'd be stabbings. The kids were getting stabbed. The youths were stabbing each other and shooting each other. And the mothers of the victims were like, yo, let's stop doing this. My children being killed. They'd all march through the streets with a picture of their little kid. He's been stabbed to death, he has. You know, and everyone's like, we must do something about this stabbing problem. Oh, no, go fuck yourself. What, are you some sort of white supremacist, madam? Don't you know your children have the right to go around stabbing each other and to be left alone? You seriously going to go in the face of a woman whose child was stabbed to death because of some postcode war or whatever bullshit it is this week and say to them, I won't even say what you're going to say. It's just going to be like, you going to say that to her, are you? Are you? Are you? You going to call up Damalola Taylor's mother and say, hey, what's your problem? All kids get into knife fights. No one's even bothered interviewing the girl who was about to get stabbed and how she feels about the situation. Think about all the mothers who've had to bury their kids because of the violence in the street. There's a fucking shitload of them. There's thousands, maybe even millions over the decades in the Western world buried their kids because of knife and gun crime. Buried their children. Ask them how they'd feel about police shooting the motherfucker who's about to kill them. We're reaching a stage now where the geezers who are around London Bridge, you know, walking around machetes and stabbing everyone they could see. I mean, some people did come out and say, well, did they have to shoot them dead? Who gives a fuck if they shot them dead? But we don't know the real reasons why they're doing it. Can we at least know the full story? I don't know. If you're going around stabbing people in the streets and someone shoots you dead, well, you kind of brought it upon yourself, didn't you? Didn't you? Not the drunk driver who kills himself. I mean, thankfully he didn't kill anyone else. Oh, it's a tragic thing. He was pissed out of his face and drove off a cliff. Well, I'm glad, because I know people who died because of drunk drivers. Fucking good. I'm glad you drove off a cliff, you fucking prick. Do you know what I mean? I mean, what the fuck are you talking about? People gone crazy. This is why it's the point of no return. Fucking Jesus Christ. What the hell are you talking about? But that's the mantra now. That's how crazy it's gotten. That they just have to go, oh, but this, it's the racist. It spins their brain out. You got people going around defending child molesters, sexual abusers, murderers. Like everybody doing some naughty shit who gets popped by the police. And they're going to be like, oh, no, stop killing these people. How about they stop fucking around? If you're going to bring that energy out into the universe, what do you think's coming back on you? What do you think's going to happen? Well, You want to bring that bad, you want to go around with bad energy all the time, stabbing all your friends and then get killed. But why did they kill me though, Blad? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is why it's a point of no return, which I'll explain. You can make the argument for protecting yourself with a knife. I mean, I used to carry a knife when I was a kid. A lot of my friends used to carry knives because we thought it was something that could defend us against people, bigger boys who could bash us up and kill us and hurt us. And I can understand why people would, I even wrote an essay when I was younger, when I was at college, about, why we should be able to have knives, why I didn't think we should have our guns taken away from us. I mean, this is many years ago. God, I'm ahead of the curve. But there's a big difference. It's all very well in practice to feel safe carrying a knife around with you. The thing is, you pull a knife on someone like that, you're putting energy out there. And some people don't take too kindly to having a knife pulled on them. You pull a knife out of them, well, you're going to have to use it. And if you're walking around carrying a knife because it gives you some sort of safety blanket, you're going to get fucked up. There's so many stories that I could tell, but I won't. You can't be bringing that energy out there, carrying a knife around with you. What do you need? You need to be protected. Who's going to protect you? Wow, communities don't give a shit about each other no more. All you got is the police. All you got is the police. Unfortunate as it may be, because the police generally, especially in my country, spend their time doing silly things, like having non-crime hate crime, whatever the fuck. Get the fuck out of here. What the hell are you talking about? This kind of nonsense. Okay, so you're kind of doomed. You're not allowed to have guns in the UK. I mean, what are you going to do? I don't know. Just don't go outside. You can't, right? You're safe. So that's all wrapped up in a pretty package, isn't it? But this is how it's going to go down as far as I can see. Because the writing has been on the wall for America for a while. And as much as, people that believe in the American dream, and as much as, look, America's a great concept. America's fantastic. Oh, praise America. Oh, praise it. But for all the great things it's given the world, it's given us a load of bullshit too. And there's a certain attitude amongst Americans that just rubs the people up very much the wrong way, which I'll get into. But the fact is, the writing is on the wall. Because the world hasn't moved away from mob rule, it's going to have a lot of demands, and its demands have already been met, no matter how weird and baseless they are. They have been met. We're dealing with cults now, all right? There are many cults out there that are actually trying to rule the world. The cult of leftism, the cult of Trump, the cult of environmentalism, the cult of the Democrats, the cult of the socialists. These are all cults. The cult of anti-racism. These people are crazy, and there's no getting through to them. And a lot of them are angry mobs. Now, many, many years ago in America, in the late 19th century and in the early parts of the 20th century, mob rule was crazy. Lynchings, I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 40,000, or maybe 100. It's tens and tens and thousands of lynchings were reported, and it wasn't just black people. It was everybody. Everybody was getting lynched because mobs got to decide on justice, and if people were cleared of a charge, they just go out and hang them. This was a huge problem. We haven't really moved on from that, except, as we've become a tamer and more mollycoddled society, our mob rule has adapted and changed to the times. But we still have mob rule. Now we have Twitter mobs, the biggest pussies of all time. But they're still dangerous, and they'll still get things done. Hence Derek Chauvin, and hence more and more to come. Now, because the security services and the government and the police like to appease the mobs because they don't want their cities burnt to the ground, they will throw them little bones. But now they're demanding more little bones than they're used to being asked for. Now, where do you think this situation goes? Because now it's every incident involving a police shooting, and there's plenty of them, justified or unjustified. But there's enough. This will go on and on and on. You're going to move to a situation where we've already had defund the police. The police are going to move away. The police are going to take a step back. They're not going to go into those crime-ridden areas as much because they just don't want the fucking bullshit. That's right. It would be a better situation to maintain the peace with the mob, to let the inner cities kill each other and just slaughter each other. Because no one cares about that, really, you know. It might get talked about here and there, but no one really wants to address the problem. Why? Because that's a part of the tug of war. And I've been through this before when people talk about the rise in crime in the UK. The left wing will say, oh, it's because they're shutting down youth centres. And the right wing will say, oh, it's because of the decay of the family. There's correlation between both, but they refuse to agree on both of them because there's many, like, one correlation doesn't add up to something. You need lots of different causes. That's what makes stuff happen. There's correlation between both, but they refuse to acknowledge both sides because it's a tug of war. It's all about political point scoring. That's it. So nothing will get done. The inner cities will crumble. The murder rate will shoot up. Eventually there'll be calls for the police to be... I mean, they already talked about the militarization of the police in America. Okay, but, now, maybe they're going to bring the police down to the UK level where it's only certain officers that have guns. That means more people with guns. So the police won't have as many guns as the people have. And they won't be able to do as much. And then, there might be a rise in militias, which there probably already is. Yes, there is. You have armed militias. And the working classes, even though they've said that they're going to help them out and throw them lots of money and create new jobs, well, we know that's not going to happen because it never does. And they're already pissed off. People thought Trump was some fascist dictator, and they were completely wrong about that. Trump was Denver the dinosaur, okay, in terms. What's coming next is Godzilla. And when Godzilla rises up, then you're going to fucking know what time it is. And by that point, you're going to have a namby-pamby police force that's not going to be able to deal with these militias running around through the streets. A bit like, what's that place? Germany in the 1930s. And then you'll see a rise because of all these people that have been called pieces of shit, told they're racist, told they're this, told they're that. Well, they might as well just go along with it. I mean, you are what you are. You are what people say you are, aren't you? And then they'll march along, and then a big boom will happen. And then, I don't think China will take over the world. Hopefully it'll be India. But there's people in America who actually want China to take over the world because they are lunatics too, because they're part of a cult. This is what is going to happen. It is the end, my friends. You have really fucked up. The lunatics have taken over. The cults have taken over. It is reaching a stage where it looks like they kind of want to destroy the working class anyway. Because what use are they? Let's face facts. Most of these jobs can be automated. Most of these jobs can be fulfilled by machines. They've told them all to learn to fucking code. Population control is a huge problem. Like, where are the working classes' place in the modern world? Because they're not doing anything for them. They say ignore them. I think they actually want them to die. I think they want them to just be phased out. They don't educate them. They hate educating them, in fact. That's why school is shit. And that's the only place they're going to get education. What's left for them? I honestly think they just would prefer they just all killed each other. Or, I've had them all die from overdoses on fentanyl. Shoot each other, suicides. Die from starvation, most likely. Small businesses crumble to the ground. People become what? Become criminalized. And then what you got? Oh. Godzilla comes along and says, hey guys, fuck this bullshit. You got guns. The police ain't got enough. Let's go. It's almost like if they were going to plan to make this sort of uprising, if this was the plan all along, then it's been done beautifully. But, I don't know. The security services, for sure, like the CIA and MI6 and MI5 and whatnot, they do like to seize opportunities to create the new bogeyman. And when they manufacture these fantasies about bogeymen, the policies, in turn, seem to make them sort of come from thin air. It's like they magic them up. They manifest them. It's crazy how they do it. They did it with ISIS. They did it pretty much with Al Qaeda, and now they're going to do it with the far right because it doesn't even exist, but they will make it exist because they want it to. I mean, they're incredibly good at what they do. They're just sort of like, we need this new enemy, let's create it. And then eventually it sort of actually becomes real. Literally, they run around like they're penny crayon with a terrorist pencil. And they sort of just draw terrorists on walls. Like everyone, remember Penny Crayon? She used to make things to come to life. She'd draw them and they come to life. Like, oh, I've drawn an elephant, here it is. The CIA kind of being like that with terrorists, just going, oh, look at this evil. Oh, here's an evil terrorist. And poof, oh, wow, I just manifested that. I just made that come to life. It's astonishing. They got a gift. They're able to just to make stuff up and then somehow they make it come to life. Amazing. Will we miss America? Now it's going down the tube because it is. You cannot appease this many people. You cannot have things go this crazy and have this much division where it's like you are just gone so bonkers that you look at a man who shoots someone to save someone's life and look at him as he's the demon. You know that the rhetoric being spread around, about, like I said, like knife fighting as part of growing up, all this, they just have lost it. And everyone's pandering to it. And if you're going to pander to that, there's no coming back from this. You have to face facts. This may be a phase, and yeah, you may grow out of it, but like, is technology slowing down? Are people getting more clever, or are people getting less emotional? No. No. Look at the stock market. The only thing that is benefiting from this is the stock market. And everyone's highly emotional. And everyone's been given all this money by governments. And they're going to throw it into the stock market, not knowing what they're doing. And because they're emotional, they're going to lose. And the wealth gap is going to grow. It's all very well Joe Biden coming out and saying, oh, Wall Street didn't build this country. Well, Wall Street built your bank account and put you in power. So, come on, let's stop being silly about that. And to be quite honest, the way these liberal lunatics have gone, they kind of deserve what's coming to them, which will be the big bad Godzilla. They brought it on themselves. I am bored of trying to tell them, stop calling people pieces of shit and pushing people over there, because it's going to bite you on the ass. They created these people. They've manifested this. They've manifested their downfall. And we ain't going down with them. And Americans have become very, very, they are imperialists at the end of the day. They're very arrogant. They like talking about everything else, but they don't like people talking about their own country. They don't realize how much we know about their country because it's constantly thrust down our throats. This is trickled down. All culture is downstream. We are downstream from America. And have been for a very long time. Now you got Diane Abbott calling some birds in Parliament going, here's the squad. Shut up, Diane. It's that arrogance. And it's that, and they're like a cult of America. You can't tell them nothing. Americans are often come across as very autistic and brainwashed, unfortunately. There's many great Americans. They do many great things. Like I said, America's great. It's given the world fantastic things, fantastic opportunities, fantastic breakthroughs. It's giving people opportunities that no other country would give. But the bullshit is now outweighing the good, unfortunately. The apple has turned rotten, and it's rotting the rest of us. We are getting all the bad ideas that are engulfing America are now engulfing the rest of the Western world because we're getting influenced by it. And it's got to stop. And when it implodes, hopefully we can look across the pond at it and go, hey, I think we need to stop doing what they're doing. It's the only thing you can do. I'll leave you on this note. I've heard people say, don't talk about American politics, you don't understand it. Okay. Well, you won't mind us all just not having a go at Donald Trump or not loving Joe Biden. Or whatever it is you want us to do. We're not going to toe the line. I'm sorry, America. I love you all. But it's the end for you now. You need to make your decisions. What are you going to do? You're going to get the hell out of there? Or, let all the Mexicans come in and invade Mexico and start again. That's what I'd do. I think that's a brilliant idea. Smash the border down, let them all come in, and then you go over there with your dollars. That's just, as long as you can do that before they become worthless, not worth doing. And I'll leave you on that note. Hopefully you got something to marinate in your brain and make some decisions about. Okay. There are many other topics to touch on. This is there's many to discuss. We need to go deeper into what's going on. So how do you do that? Like I said, go over to the website, become a subscriber, click the notifications on my website, go read my blogs, go watch more videos, go just watch the live stream. All right? The live stream's a lot more lighthearted and funny than this, but it's still just as deep because I'm a deep guy with massive balls. Peace.